Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Clinton,
Here.
Curtis,
Here.
Gilbert,
Here.
Hightower,
Here.
Sharma,
Here.
Simmons,
Here.
Tedrick,
Here.
Walters. I see her.
Maddie?
Here.
Hello,
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
we can.
Okay.
A quorum is established.
Quorum is established. Dr. Hightower, where physically are you now? You're hard to keep track of.
Well, I'm in sunny Michigan, 65 degrees right now.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you ever heard remember the puzzle, Where's Waldo?
Yes,
Where's Dr. Hightower? You move around all the time now.
I am moving around a little bit.
Okay, the first item of board business is the election of officers, the executive committee, and board representatives, and the annual appointments by the chair. First, are there any nominations for chair of the board?
Yes, I would like to nominate our wonderful chair, Phil Gilbert, to continue as chairman of the board.
I will second that.
Yep.
Okay, are there any other nominations for chair? Okay, I'm going to declare the nominations for chair are closed. Madam Secretary, proceed with the roll call for the election of chair with the following candidate as me.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes,
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Okay, I declare that by a majority of the voting members, I've been reelected chair. I want to thank my fellow board members for the confidence they have in me in being chair for the next year. I think that we have a wonderful board, and I think the university and its various campuses are moving forward in the right direction. And again, I appreciate the confidence that you folks have expressed in me. Next, we need to elect the vice chair and secretary, and I nominate Ed Hightower as vice chair and Roger Tedrick as secretary.
Mr. Chair, could I make a suggestion? Instead of having me as secretary, since we're doing Zoom meetings, it's not a time-consuming job, but it takes signatures at times. And so Misty's having to mail me things. I would like to nominate Subhash as secretary, since he's local there, and it would make the business of the board a lot more efficient.
Okay, so you're nominating Trustee Sharma as secretary?
That is correct.
Okay.
You all right with that, Subhash?
Yeah, I'm okay. I will do that. It doesn't take a lot.
It doesn't take much time.
Yeah, it doesn't take much time.
Well, and the pay is really good there, Trustee Sharma. So, okay, so you do not want to be nominated, Mr. Tedrick, is that right?
No, I think it's more efficient for Subhash too. Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other nominations other than Trustee Sharma? Okay, Madam Secretary, please proceed with a roll call vote for the election of vice chair and secretary with Dr. Hightower as vice chair and Subhash Sharma as secretary.
For the record, I'll second that if there wasn't one. Just
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
yes,
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
yes.
Tedrick,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Okay, I declare that by majority of voting members, Ed Hightower has been elected as vice chair and Subhash Sharma has been elected as secretary. Next, we need to elect members of the executive committee. And I nominate John Simmons and Roger Tedrick to serve as members of the Executive Committee of the Board of Trustees. Are there any other nominations? The nominations are closed, and Madam Secretary, please proceed with a roll call vote for the election of members of the Executive Committee with the following candidates: John Simmons and Roger Tedrick as members of the Executive Committee.
Linton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
yes,
Simmons,
yes,
Tedrick,
yes,
Walters.
Yes.
Okay, I declare that by majority vote, members John Simmons and Roger Tedrick have been elected as members of the Executive Committee. As a requirement of the State University Civil Service Act, our board elects a representative to serve on the State University Civil Service System Merit Board. I nominate John Simmons for that position. Are there any other nominations? Is there a second to that nomination?
I'll second that.
second,
Nominations are closed, and Madam Secretary, please proceed with a roll call vote for John Simmons to be elected as civil service representative.
Linton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
yes,
Simmons,
yes,
Tedrick,
Yes,
Walters.
Yes.
I declare that John Simmons has been elected by a majority of voting members present to serve as our representatives on the State University Civil Service Merit Board. The next are the annual appointments by the chair. The Academic Matters Committee bylaws require not less than 3 voting members. And I'm appointing Dr. Ed Hightower as chair. And other members of that academic affairs would be Shabash Sharman and Maddie Waters. With the Architectural and Design Committee, I'm appointing John Simmons as chair, Shaylee Clinton, Ed Curtis, and Roger Tedrick as members of that committee. The Audit Committee, I'm appointing Ed Curtis as chair, and myself and Maddie Waters are members of that committee. The Finance Committee members, Roger Tedrick is chair, Shaylee Clinton, Ed Curtis, and Shabash Sharma are members of that committee. On the Board of Directors of Seminole University Foundation, you have Roger Tedrick will be the initial member and Shabash Sharma will be the alternate. The Board of Directors of Seminole University at Edwardsville Foundation, Dr. Hightower will be the member. As you know, we're short a board member right now, and once that appointment by the governor is made, that individual, I assume, will be from the Metro East area, will be a member, will be the alternate member. The Joint Trustee Committee for Springfield Medical Education Programs, John Simmons be the primary member of that committee, and I will be the alternate. And the Board of Directors of the Association of Alumni, Former Students and Friends of Seminole University. Dr. Sharma will be the primary member, and I will be an alternate. The Board of Directors of the Alumni Association of Seminole University at Edwardsville, Dr. Hightower, and the SIU Healthcare Board of Directors, John Simmons. That concludes the appointment segment of the agenda. The next item on the agenda is a tuition and fees discussion. President Mahoney, will you introduce this item?
Yes, and I'll start and then turn over the campuses really for a relatively short presentation. Just as a reminder, we don't bring forward a formal recommendation till the April meeting. And so this is really just to provide some information of our process and kind of where we're at this point. And any discussion of tuition and fees is really tied to the budget. And that's a lot of what we'll talk about, is where we see some of the increased costs coming in the next year. But I'll start by saying we are certainly very supportive of the proposed budget from the governor. And I've personally thanked him for his support of Illinois higher education. The 5% increase across the system would address really most, if not all, of our inflationary costs on the operating side. And so that was very good news, and we'll continue to advocate for that proposed budget going forward. And we're particularly pleased also by the increase in MAP funding that will help out our most needy students across the state. And that was a pretty significant increase in that proposed budget. So overall, it was a very good budget from our perspective and allows us to kind of start our discussions on tuition and fees in a good place. Again, what we'll do going forward before the April meeting, at the end of April, we'll make that recommendation. Certainly by then we'll know the allocation that we actually will receive from the state. Again, it still has to go through the legislature and there's still a process that will go on there. If it's consistent, we don't think we'll need to increase undergraduate tuition to cover, again, our operating costs. So that will be, again, a big benefit to our students. We will examine whether a modest increase in undergraduate tuition may be necessary to help us create a scholarship pool to help our most needy students. We are a little concerned that our ability to help those students will be reduced now that some of the federal dollars we've had the last couple of years will run out. I'm not sure we're going to do this, but at least we want to explore it because that's certainly part of our equity agenda and making sure that we address affordability for all of our students. So we'll at least examine that. We'll also explore any needed increases in our graduate and professional programs to maintain the level of quality in those programs. And we'll work with our student leaders across the campuses to explore any need to increase fees in specific areas that are not necessarily supported by the increase in state appropriations. And so by April, we'll present recommendations for any changes in tuition and fees after we've thoroughly explored all of these possibilities. And again, focusing primarily on affordability for all of our students. And by then we will have, again, more certainty about the state appropriations. But we feel positive with where we are right now budgetarily and certainly feel good about what's coming in fiscal year 23. So I'm now going to ask each of the campuses again, just to discuss where they see some of the increases in costs that we anticipate in fiscal year 23. And I'll start with Carbondale and Chancellor Lane.
Thank you, Dr. Mahoney. And first, I'd like to thank Julie McReynolds and her team. They do a fantastic job with our budget. They're always working to make sure we're in good shape. As Dr. Mahoney mentioned, just some of our upcoming needs or future commitments that will increase our expenses in the next fiscal year fall in the areas of some of our negotiated salary increases for both represented and non-represented employees, along with addressing the minimum wage increase for some of our staff. And so that would amount to about $1.9 million, just something that we're thinking about in the next fiscal year in terms of what we have to address. Pleased to report the income fund revenue at the end of January is greater than it was a year ago, which means it's continuing to fund higher than expected. We're in the process now of helping our students through the HERF funds that we have available to keep them going from semester to semester. We've been doing that now for about a year or so, and that's looking really good. And as the president mentioned, having those discussions with our student leaders as it relates to any proposed fee increases obviously would have to start with our students, and we'd have conversations with them for that. So with that, I'll stop.
All right, I'll turn it next to the School of Medicine. I don't know whether Jerry or John, you're going to present.
Yeah, John's going to take it.
Okay, John, quarterback.
Yeah, I'll keep my comments very brief. Like the other campuses, the School of Medicine needs the ability to recruit and retain faculty and staff in a difficult labor market and support other uses of operating funds during a time of increasing inflation. Those needs include a salary pool of 2 to 2.5% range, consistent with our collective bargaining agreements. That's about $1.2 million in operating funds. And then clinical dollars and academic support from our hospital partners is about another $3.3 million in salary adjustments. We do have a need to adjust some salary ranges for certain difficult to recruit job classifications. Those are primarily ambulatory care positions supported by clinical dollars of up to $2 million. Increases for faculty awarded promotion in academic rank of about $120,000, and then inflationary increases for non-wage expenses, including utilities and commodities. Our goals for setting tuition for the MD program is tuition levels competitive with other community-based medical schools for both your traditional and Lincoln Scholars programs. For the physician assistant program, tuition levels competitive with other PA programs in the region. And then we anticipate no change in tuition for the Doctor of Medical Science degree program, which was new last year. And finally, we don't anticipate any changes in student fees for fiscal year 23. That's all I have today.
All right, and Chancellor Pembroke.
Thank you, President Mahoney and the board for this opportunity to address the 22-23 SIUE budget. I also want to thank Bill Winter and his team, Nick and Robin, for putting the numbers together that you're seeing. The general operating fund is made up of dollars from state appropriation as well as tuition revenues. These areas cover the things you're seeing relating to the GO budget, which shows the difference, i.e. increase in the 2022-23 anticipated costs compared to this year. Regarding salaries, we are anticipating that an expected increase next year would equate to about $2.34 million of additional spending. Regarding general inflation pertaining to items such as energy, utilities, maintenance, Social Security, Medicare, library materials, to name a few, we're anticipating a change to be a little over 1 million, 1.23 to be precise. Therefore, the GO total estimated change would be about 3.57 million. Along with the GO funding areas, the second largest revenue source for the university budget is the general student fee. Again, you see areas covered by this source and the anticipated increases for 22-23. Some categories such as salaries were mentioned previously, but are funded by this different stream for other individuals who work specifically in student affairs, for example. So I have listed certain categories, including of inflation, a second time. Regarding salaries for those paid by fees, we anticipate an increase of about $760,000 for salaries of those employees. General inflation for items such as IT, counseling services, and maintenance for buildings primarily serving students is anticipated to be around $800K. You may notice that one specific large increase we are anticipating, which we have broken out, is for textbook services, which would be around 1.6 million. So the total anticipated increase in this category would be about $3 million. A third area of increased costs in 2022-23, which I know you're aware of, relates to housing costs. The bond model is based on a balloon mortgage schedule with costs increasing by about $500,000 annually through 28-29 when the bond payment will be completed. And finally, we are anticipating that food costs in 2022-23 will be higher by roughly $170,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Pembroke. So again, we'll come back, we'll look at all of this and come back with a more complete recommendation on tuition at the April meeting. But if there are any questions at this point, we're open to those.
Anybody have any questions of President Mahoney or any of the chancellors? Okay, I think that it is the goal that we not increase tuition, especially for undergraduates. And if the legislature follows through with the proposed budget, the Governor Pritzker has recommended, hopefully all of the increase in cost that these various campuses are going to experience with the inflationary can be absorbed by the increase, where we do not have to increase tuition, at least at the undergraduate level. But Dr. Mahoney will be, and the chancellors will be keeping tabs on this, and hopefully when they come back in April, the legislature will have given us the budget that the governor has recommended, and we'll be able to not have to raise any tuition. The increase in MAP scholarships is definitely going to be helpful, but we're going to do what we can to hold the costs down for our students. Any other questions or comments to Dr. Mahoney? Okay, the next item on the agenda is an update on the Office of Community Engagement. President Mahoney, will you introduce this item?
Yeah, so we'll later talk about the strategic plan and some of the things we're doing, but two things that we did really before the strategic plan was completed was creating the Office for Community Engagement and the Institute for Rural Health. And so we thought we did that back in July. This would be a good opportunity to provide an update on the work that both are doing. we'll do the Office for Community Engagement at this meeting and then the Institute for Rural Health at the April meeting, but it'll give us an opportunity to kind of review what's been happening so far. I think you'll be excited to hear what they've been working on. I'm certainly excited to get more detail on all those things that they've been doing over the last about 8 months, but I'll turn it over to Dr. Stacey Grundy, who will start this presentation for us.
Good afternoon. I think we'll just wait as the slides are loaded, but I just want to say thank you to the Board of Trustees, President Mahoney, and all of the campus representatives for the opportunity to speak before you today. My name is Dr. Stacey Grundy. I am a research assistant professor and the interim director of the Office of Community Engagement. And as a state, in 2020, our General Assembly passed historic reform to advance economic access, equity, and opportunity. And as a system, SIU responded. In July of 2021, you, the Board of Trustees, gave the system a charge to create a system community engagement outreach model that leverages system resources in partnership with the communities that we serve. This was a command that we did not and do not take lightly. And when I say we, I mean the dedicated professionals across all of our campuses who have been doing this work even before the mandate, many of whom make up our Office of Community Engagement work group. These individuals have given of their time and labor to ensure that we are building a solid foundation for the Office of Community Engagement. Today, we'll hear an update on our progress from the members of our work group, which will include Dr. Connie Fry Spurlock, who is the Associate Professor of Sociology, SIUE Successful Communities Collaborative, and Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation Campus Center Director. Dr. Craig Ants, who is SIUC School of Architecture Director, Ms. Courtney Breckenridge, who is a specialist of alternative credentials and grant development in the Office of Online Services and Educational Outreach at SIUE, Dr. Diane Cox, who is the Director of Grant Development at SIUE, and Ms. Lynn Anderson Lindbergh, the Executive Director of SIU Research Park. So I guess I will share the slides. So let me share those for you. And so the next voice that you'll be hearing will be, are you all seeing this? Okay, so are you all seeing that?
Yes.
Yes.
The next voice you'll hear will be Dr. Spurlock.
Hey, Stacey, hit enable editing. Hit enable editing and then do slideshow again, like you just did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Technical difficulties. Okay. Okay. Is that, can you all do that now? Let me do this again. Let's do this again. I apologize. Technology never works when you need it to. Okay. Can you all see that slideshow?
We can.
Okay. Okay. Connie, you can start.
Okay, all right. Can we advance to the second slide, please?
There you go.
Down there in the lower right corner.
I'm not I can't see what you all are seeing. I think that's my. Okay.
Stacey, I can do it.
Okay, yeah, that would probably be better. I can't see on my end.
Okay, I am on it. Here we go.
Okay.
And here we go. All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you, Courtney.
You're welcome.
Good morning, folks, and thank you for the opportunity to share our work with you this morning. We can look to several factors that have brought us here today with the proposal for a system-level Office for Community Engagement, but one of those factors is certainly prompted by an internal question about who we are and who we want to be. In answering this question, it's become clear that we're an institution that values community engagement, And we've discovered that we can be better by developing authentic relationships and mutually beneficial relationships across the system around community engagement efforts. The work we present here is heavily informed and intended to advance the Illinois Black Caucus's four-pillar agenda to rid Illinois of systemic racism. And those pillars include criminal justice reform, education and workforce development, economic access, and healthcare and human services. You'll see these areas reflected in various ways throughout this presentation. And Courtney, thank you. So I'm going to speak to two of the system level collaborations that we've engaged with thus far, beginning with a partnership with the City of East St. Louis, and then looking at briefly the Venice, Madison, and Brooklyn Revitalization Project. So we'll move forward. Thank you. First, East St. Louis. So since March 2021, members of the SSCC team have supported the East St. Louis city leaders through a process to identify priorities and actionable items with an eye toward connecting students, staff, and faculty to high impact learning experiences and community identified research needs. Consequently, the city and SSCC entered into a formal partnership through at least 2023. And some of the projects that students and faculty have been engaged with thus far include a review of potential revenue sources by economic students, a cleanup, design, and budgeting for renovation of the Catherine Dunham homes in Olivet Park. You see a photo of an end of one of the cleanup days where students were working alongside with lots of community members to clean up those properties. Students also have been working on nutrition education tailored to the health needs of the East St. Louis community. And students also are working on refinement of the city's marketing and communication plans. Carbondale faculty from the College of Civil Engineering, Civil, Environmental, and Infrastructure Engineering are now working with the SSCC team as part of the East St. Louis partnership on a water quality project with IIN funding and EPA funding pending. Want to move forward?
I did.
Thank you. With initial funding from the Innovation Network Sustaining Illinois Seed Funding, this group has also been engaged in community-led strategic planning to revive and set in motion a prosperous design for Venice, Madison, and Brooklyn. We'll move forward. Beginning in spring 2021, students, staff, and faculty representing both campuses, the Edwardsville and Carbondale campuses, began working with community leaders, external experts, and other stakeholders on this Venice, Madison, and Brooklyn revitalization project. And again, thus far, students and faculty from architecture, sociology, international studies, public health, environmental science, and public relations programs have been involved in projects to further the goals of the revitalization project and provide them with high impact learning practices. In addition to those two collaborations, SSCC has also recently partnered with Alton for a second time and is in conversation with city leaders in two additional communities. Due to SSCC's early successes in Highland, Godfrey, Alton, Edwardsville, Washington Park, all since 2017, the Successful Communities Collaborative has not had to formally solicit partners since 2020. A groundswell of interest in partnering, however, has left us beyond the capacity to meet the need. And at this time, I believe Dr. Ans would like to add some comments around the Venice, Madison, and Brooklyn revitalization project.
I think all of our colleagues on board should be commended. I agree with Dr. Grundy. She hit it on the nail. It's been incredible working with such an incredible range of experts on this project. It shows how better together we can actually solve problems. Some of this work is really contextualizing our curriculum in discussion of urban and regional planning and design, master planning of communities, development of, for instance, here a community outreach center and community building, as well as housing proposals to upgrade living conditions within these areas, along with ecosystem resourcing, and really championing both our students and their knowledge and championing our community and as part of the involvement and involved partners.
Okay, and so I'm going to talk to you all about the current status of the office. One of the first tasks that we completed as a work group was to create our vision, identifying who we are presently and who do we aspire to be in the future. So this is actually one iteration that we as a group have come up with. It will change over time, especially as we garner that community input as far as what they need and what they're looking for as they interact with the Office of Community Engagement. But we are a catalyst for meaningful change through community advocacy, capacity building, and elevating the voices of current and future community leaders. Definitely want to highlight the capacity building. That's with the understanding that SIU does not have a limitless amount of resources. And so in order for us, this work to be sustainable, capacity building has to be at the forefront as we're working with our communities, making sure they have the tools that they need to continue this work, even when SIU is not the leader, and so that we actually can just have a seat at the table and just be a partner. Also elevating the voices of current and future community leaders. And so that also encompasses our current community leaders, as well as staff, faculty, and students, acknowledging that as a system, SIU is in the business of producing leaders who are using their brains and hearts to shape our changing world. And so as far as our mission, we really, as far as the early concept of this office, listening to the Board of Trustees as far as what does this office do? So we are leveraging system resources to strengthen and expand mutually beneficial. And I highlight that because this is not just the university, we're the leads, we are working with the communities to get grants, but we're also, this is beneficial for the community as well as the students, staff, and faculty. It's a community university partnership in Central and Southern Illinois, and with values of inclusivity and accessibility, being ethical and transparent, and also collaborative and participatory. This is a change from the top-down approach that usually institutions have when they're working with communities. And so as we are building for the future, the goal from this first is to really have a strategic plan, which is a living document that will guide our work. We currently have 3 different subcommittees and those committees include our communication committee, organizational structure, and community impact. As far as with communication, as an entire group, we created a vision and mission and values, which are drafts. And so that communications team, which is comprised of communication professionals from all campuses who will refine that mission and vision, as well as develop a marketing and communication matrix which will be used. And so just for instance, Ms. Lynn Anderson will talk about the Build Back Better Regional Challenge that we were awarded as part of a collaboration, having that communication strategy of how we're going to get those messages out when we are awarded grants or different things as a system. What is that messaging that is seen across the entire system? Our organizational structure, which assesses each individual campus's capacity, also what is necessary on each campus to do this work, also figuring out those initial human resources. What are the resources to do the work, whether it's grant writing or whether it's creating a position that is shared among other departments where we have someone or a team of people who are able to make sure that this work continues. And our last subcommittee is our community impact, which is very important. This is how do we identify the needs of the community? How do we communicate with the community? How do we define community? Community has a million different terms, as well as figuring out our advisory board development. Who needs to be at the table? How do we find those people, and so that we have an actual strategic guide as we are building this?
As you just heard from Dr. Grundy, one of the most critical things that we want to do within this office is to build capacity in communities. Many times that requires extensive funding well beyond the scope of traditional municipal budgets. And so we have dedicated a great deal of time, effort, and energy to supporting communities in writing both collaborative grants and through the work of a DCEO Community Navigator Grant, which was awarded to, I believe, Greater Egypt, but with strong partnership from SIUE and SIUC to support communities in writing grants where the university may not be directly involved. This has been very fruitful work, as you can see from these numbers, which reflect our activities since January of 2020. More than $1.8 million in funded proposals, and an additional $5 million still pending, excluding the Build Back Better proposal that you'll hear about from Lynn here shortly, which is, I believe, nearly $100 million proposal in total. This has supported or been submitted to more than 10 agencies in partnership with 8 rural or low-income communities, including Venice, Brooklyn, Madison, East St. Louis, Alton, Cahokia Heights, Washington Park, Belleville, and Carlinville. One other thing that you'll hear from Dr. Cox later in this presentation is how we've been working with communities, not just to support them in these grant writing efforts, but also in teaching them to identify and write grants so that we can have a greater impact with lesser input on each one. I want to touch briefly on what these grants have covered, both in terms of submission and fund, and I believe all of these are areas that were actually funded. We have broadband, looking at how we're going to bridge the digital divide in low-income communities, such as Venice, Brooklyn, Madison, East St. Louis, Washington Park. Public safety, you may have read Alton and East St. Louis received funding to equip all of their officers with body-worn cameras, and will be serving as a pilot for the state and reporting their findings to the state legislature as we look toward the full implementation of the body-worn camera law in 2025, I believe. Economic development, looking at infrastructure and downtown revitalization, clean technology, workforce, and innovation. That's something that's pretty prominent in the MHub proposal, as you can imagine, for the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. Water quality and water quality with a lens toward community engagement. This is very relevant in East St. Louis and East St. Louis and Cahokia Heights. And then finally, community development, which is at the center really of everything that we're doing. But looking for community input and planning on how we're delivering these services and helping communities thrive and grow, whether that's child-friendly community status, energy efficiency and public housing, financial literacy, tourism, and the arts and humanities. So pretty broad scope of range. You'll hear more about that from our next presenters.
Thank you, Courtney. I'm Lynn Anderson Lindbergh, Executive Director of the SIU Research Park in Carbondale. I'm going to share an example of a collaborative activity that involves both SIU Carbondale and SIU Edwardsville, and the benefit is not only the state of Illinois, but beyond. In late 2021, the Economic Development Administration announced the $1 billion Build Back Better Regional Challenge. This program aims to boost economic recovery from the pandemic and rebuild American communities, including those grappling with decades of disinvestment. In October 2021, it was announced that there were 529 applicants from across the US, representing all 50 states and 5 territories. Several weeks later, 60 finalists were announced, as shown on the map, with these proposed projects ranging from advanced manufacturing to healthcare to transportation to energy. We're very happy to announce that our Cleantech proposal, led by MHub out of Chicago, was one of the 60 finalists. Next slide, please. The 2025 Cleantech Economy Coalition brings together an impressive group of Illinois organizations and educational institutions, including the 2 SIU campuses in Carbondale and Edwardsville. The proposal aims to support the development of technologies, rapid rollout of critical infrastructure, and coordinated workforce development to support an end-to-end supply chain. There are 6 focused clean tech projects, including infrastructure improvement and innovation and workforce training opportunities to increase access and opportunity in the clean tech economy for the region's Black and Brown communities. So the 6 of them are innovation, which will allow a new innovation center to be built on the south side of Chicago. Entrepreneurship and commercialization, Multiple facilities will be involved here with labs, support, training, and equitable access to capital. Manufacturing and supply chain, manufacturing support in Calumet Opportunity Zone, as well as throughout Illinois. Workforce coordination, this one is being led by SIU Edwardsville. Will analyze Cleantech workforce needs, identify local talent pool gaps, and design training programs. Transforming coal economies with grid modernization and energy storage. This is led by SIU Carbondale. This will involve testing and implementing grid modernization technologies to enable energy storage and electric vehicles. Number 6 is focused on electric vehicles. This will install EV charging stations in economically distressed and disinvested communities, as well as quantify air quality impact. We're working on these individual proposals and collaborations to meet the March 15th deadline, coming up very quickly. And the approximate proposal range is somewhere between 75 million and 100 million, as Courtney mentioned. We're working out all the details and looking at each of our institutions here, as well as everybody else, where they will be focused and how much money they'll be able to bring in as match to support these activities. Nationally, between 20 and 30 projects will be awarded from the second round, and we plan on being one of them. Thank you.
And finally, we want to wrap up with kind of a recap of the Office of Community Engagement Benefits and Impact. Certainly, the office addresses system strategic plan goals around community impact, but it also increases the visibility and the reputation of the SIU system and serves to significantly improve intercampus collaborations and relationships, as well as helping us both to become more aware of the resources that exist in order to be able to better support the communities. The office also has a potential to increase enrollment through word of mouth, which is one of the best marketing tools on the face of the planet, in my opinion. And certainly our work in particularly underserved communities speaks to the SIU values around diversity, equity, and inclusion. The office also creates an opportunity to give back to the communities that support the SIU system through symbiotic partnerships. As Dr. Fry-Spurlock pointed out, we are not going out to save the communities. We are truly partners with them in their identified areas of need. This office also allows students, faculty, and staff to help communities develop capacity to more address the economic development and other community identified needs. One of the things that is happening currently is we're running a series of workshops around grant development and identification of funding opportunities. We had such an outpouring of support for that Alton asked to have their own private session. We typically have between 11 and 17 people in each one of those workshops. And then I run a separate series for communities at large that have been incredibly well received. Then what happens once we identify a funding opportunity with a community, we work to see what university resources can help to support them. And as Courtney pointed out, sometimes we have resources that can be included in those grant opportunities, and sometimes there isn't. We certainly want it to be a meaningful relationship. The office, one of the most important things, at least for me, is that the office certainly provides an opportunity to maximize the resources in supporting the underserved communities through this intercampus collaboration. And although it's not a specific objective of the office, the activities with the communities allow the office to move forward with the potential of becoming partially self-sustaining through these external awards. And at this point in time, that concludes the presentation. We're open to any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Well, I would like to just say that this Office of Community Engagement, which is basically still in its infancy, One of the primary missions of our university is not only to educate our students, but also to strengthen the areas and communities around our universities, our campuses, because we cannot be strong unless they are strong. And the work that they are doing in Venice and Madison and Brooklyn and other areas is historic. And providing the resources that we have to help them improve the lives of their communities is something that I think other universities around the country are going to take a look at and follow. I would like now to give a shout out to Dr. Hightower as one of the primary motivators in our establishment of the Office of Community Engagement and the work he has done. And I don't know, Dr. Hightower, whether you want to say anything or not, but this is what we're experiencing now is literally historic when it comes to the missions of the universities beyond just educating the students on campus.
Chairman Gibbard, I would just like to commend the individuals who have presented this morning for the outstanding work they're doing, but also want to recognize Chancellor Pembroke. He was on the ground floor when we began talking about how we could go into these various areas. So I'm going to just ask him to make a couple of comments because, again, he and I, as we started to talk about this almost 3 years ago, it's now part of the SIU system. And so, Chancellor Pembroke, I'm going to just let you make some comments, if you will.
Well, thank you, Trustee Hightower. I'm actually going to say something about my father, who never went to college, but realized the role of public higher education in helping. He was a farmer. And so what he saw happening at higher ed institutions and how it helped farmers, he talked around the dinner table about what public education should do in helping communities. And so that was instilled in me early on. And so the conversation when I arrived at SIUE was about what can we do? What can we do in our communities? How can we help? And so I had to smile as I listened to the presentations and I thought of how this has developed in the last 2 or 3 years. Not only trying to have our students be out in community, but our faculty and staff with amazing expertise serving those in our areas. So like you, I just want to say thank you. The people who are doing this work, it's just transformational to our areas. So thank you so much.
And the last person, Mr. Chair, Trustee Simmons, he has been very involved since coming back on the Board of Trustees and helping to push this initiative through. John, would you want to make a couple comments?
Sure. I just want to first say thank you to all those leaders in this community development stage. And when I talked to the president about this early on was how we can be a strong system by a couple things. One, working together, which this program is doing, and two, working together in our communities. And that's what's going to make Southern Illinois University strong throughout Southern Illinois and really set us apart everywhere. Because when people, and again, this is looking down the road, but when people come to Southern Illinois, they're going to see significant things that have happened and think, how did this happen? Oh, well, the university's got their tentacles in every little aspect of improvement and furthering the whole state. And I really commend the group and the university as a whole. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, finally, I want to thank our legislators led by Representative Hoffman and Senator Chris Belt for their leadership, along with President Mahoney coming on board and saying this is where we need to be, this is the footprint we need to establish, and really driving this home. So without the vision and the dedication, commitment of our president, to put this committee together and to work through all of the issues and getting this off the floor. So much credit goes to these individuals. And when I talk with our local legislators, they could not be happier and looking forward to hearing this report. And of course, future funding, which will keep this program moving forward in the direction that this Board of Trustees would like to see it move. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for those for the opportunity to thank these wonderful individuals.
Thank you, Dr. Hightower. And as I said, what we're doing here is historic. I think as a university, we cannot be more proud of the people that we have working here and what we're doing to assist in providing resources to many of these underserved areas that need our resources to help them improve. President Mahoney, anything else you wish to say before you close up?
Yeah, no, I think when we started with this idea a couple of years ago of creating such an office like this, I was excited about what might be possible. And I think what they've been able to do, the movement we've heard from today in such a short period of time is incredibly impressive. And I'm excited about what the future holds. Again, we need to kind of continue. I think as several of them talked about building that capacity, getting additional resources to really support it. And I think that will allow us to do even more and help out more communities. But I think as I often find out, if you have the right people involved, they often exceed what you had as vision rather quickly. And I think that's what we've seen with the Office for Community Engagement. So, and again, I'm excited about where they are, what they've done already in really relatively short period of time and what the potential is going forward. And I just want to reiterate again, this is really partnerships with communities. It is providing a benefit to communities, but it also is providing benefit to our students and the people involved with these projects. So we all win with this, and there's been a lot of victories already. So thank you.
Okay, I want to thank all the presenters for their presentation. If it was up to me, I'd give you the presenters the rest of the day off, but I think that your chancellors are probably going to want you to go back to work. But again, thank you and very much for your presentation. We are now going to close the meeting to go into executive session. I move to close the meeting to the public for the purpose of considering pending, probable, or imminent court proceedings against or on behalf of the board, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, matters relating to individual students, and review of executive session minutes. The relevant sections of the Open Meetings Act statute that allow for the closed session are 5 ILCS 120/2 C in paren, 1 in paren, 10 in paren, 11 in paren, and 21. Do I have a second to the motion?
I do.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Ms. Whittington, please take a roll call.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Okay, motion is passed and the board will now go into executive session.
Welcome to the conferencing center. At any time during this message, please enter your
Ed Curtis,
Present. Yes, present.
Misty? Misty? Misty,
But you can't hear me. And I'm saying, hold on.
can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. So we're going to move the students up after the approval of minutes.
That's right.
Okay.
Sounds like we'd like to do that before the strategic plan so
Sure.
the students can get on to class.
Well, they may not want to go to class.
Maybe they don't want to.
They can, you know, they can get the president to give them a pass.
That's not within my power, and any faculty member on campus will tell you I do not have that power.
You can give it, it just might not be recognized.
Yeah, it won't be recognized, that's the thing, yeah.
Everyone ready to go? Ready? Okay, we're back in session. The first committee meeting today is the Academic Matters Committee. Dr. Hightower, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The meeting of the Academic Matters Committee is now in session. Announcements, Dr. Gupchuk.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hightower. I'd like to give you a quick update on the progress that SIUC and SIUE are making on the Illinois Tutoring Initiative. If you remember, this is an IBHE and ISB initiative to help young learners who have suffered during COVID. Both campuses are actively hiring coordinators and tutors and are working with 4 school districts each. We will provide an update when the MOUs with the school districts have been executed. Previously, I've also reported to you about the system-wide staff, faculty, and student committees. Last year, the student committee presented Distinguished Student Awards to students on all campuses at the June BOT meeting. They plan to present these awards again this year. Also, the student committee has discussed helping with promoting the system's strategic plan. The staff committee is planning 2 professional development programs for staff system-wide. The programs focus on motivation and self-care and leadership. These topics were decided upon through a system-wide staff survey. And finally, the faculty committee have a wellness program on February 22nd. The program will be led by the counseling centers at SIUE and SIUC and the Center for Human and Organizational Potential at the School of Medicine. Again, this program is informed by a system-wide faculty survey. Those are my announcements, Dr. Hightower.
Thank you, Dr. Gupchuk. Approval of minutes of the December 2nd meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? I'll second. Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Thank you. It is my understanding, Dr. Gupchuk, we want to move the agenda around slightly.
That is correct.
You want to proceed?
Yes, thank you. We'll begin with the presentation by Soar, Game, and Fame. The title is Why Soar, Game, and Fame Matter to SIUE. And it's my distinct pleasure today to introduce 2 of our colleagues to you, Dr. Erlene Patterson and Howard Ramsby. Who will be sharing information about Soar, Fame, and Game today, how these programs are helping to educate SIUE underrepresented students. They also have students with them. Dr. Patterson is the Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Opportunities, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. In 2000, in response to the low graduation rates of African-American males, Dr. Patterson spearheaded the development of the GAME project, which became a first-year course for African-American males. Following that format, in 2006, she led the development of a parallel program for African-American females known as FAME, educating and elevating students During their tenure at SIUE as director of Soar, where fame and game are housed, she continues to champion historically underrepresented students and address equity gaps in retention and graduation rates. And I can say firsthand that Dr. P is doing a great job. Also, we have with us Dr. Ramsby, and he is a distinguished research professor of literature at SIUE, where he has worked since 2003. He teaches courses on African American literature, creativity, comic books, and rap music. He has received approximately $1 million in external grant funding supported by the National Endowment for Humanities and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation and the Illinois Humanities Council. In addition, he has written scholarly articles and published 2 books, The Black Arts Enterprise in 2011 and Bad Men, Creative Touchstones of Black Writers in 2020. He has taught GAME, a first-year collegiate course for Black men since 2004, and he has taught FAME, a course for first-year collegiate Black women since 2008. With that, I'll hand over to my distinguished colleagues, and the floor is yours, and please introduce your students as they present.
Good afternoon. I'm Earlene Patterson, Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Opportunities, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And SIUE's challenge to the Soar Center has been to move the retention needle closer to graduation for underrepresented students. And recent studies show that we continue to be successful. Participation in our programs have a 77% retention and graduation probability versus 38% for students outside the program. Now, we'll be mindful of our 15 minutes, and with 4 of us speaking, we like to jump right in and tell you how we got there. Soar and Fame and Game. Now, Fame and Game are 2 of Soar's high impact leadership programs. In a moment, Dr. Howard Ramsey will talk about Fame and Game. Soar, Student Opportunities for Academic Results, is a support center and academic advising unit for over 600 students. And we provide the structural transition support to first year and to some second year students. As we are not a special admit program, students must already be admitted to SIUE. And if they meet at risk to retention criteria, then students can self-select into our program. And they remain in SOAR until they are officially declared into their major areas of study. You know, over my years as director of SOAR and higher ed educator, we've had many opportunities to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives, some good, some not so good. And we know why students are not retained. We talk a lot about why students drop out of school, overwhelming sense of being underprepared, or finances, or working too much while attending college, feelings of not belonging, or microaggressions in and out of class. So we know why, and we talk about the why, but something that we never discuss, or at the very least, we rarely discuss in higher education, is the value and the significance of the human connection relationships. Under President Obama's administration, he appointed a commission on education excellence for African Americans. And the leader of that commission, Dr. James Comer, was quoted as saying, "No significant learning can occur without a significant relationship." And in Soar, we're often asked how we do what we do in meeting the challenges of our student populations. And yes, sometimes the work is demanding. Do institutional policies that need revisiting sometimes get in the way? Does limited resources impact our goals? Is there a perspective by some that underrepresented students don't deserve and need what everyone else needs? Those are some of the barriers. But because we understand and lead all of our initiatives, recognizing the value and the significance and the humanity of relationships, it's that understanding that helps us to move the retention needle closer to graduation every day. We begin to cultivate relationships with our incoming students even before they arrive on campus. We have a team of students whose efforts began as volunteers because of our relationships, who set the welcoming table, if you will, and they connect with the incoming students prior to the start of the term. Next slide. So yeah, why does SOAR, fame, and gain matter? Because when you look at higher education institutions around the country, the demographic with the highest risk for retention and graduation is African American males. And on February 1st of 2021, Dr. Carrie Butts-Wilsmeyer, the director of the Center for Predictive Analytics at SIUE, presented retention rate and student success among African American male students at SIUE. And the results of Dr. Butts-Wilsmeyer's study found that the probabilities of African American males' retention and graduation is increased by 77% if participating in our programs. The study also showed that African American males at SIUE who are not participants in SOAR and or GAIN are retained and graduating at 38.4%. Next slide. Our academic advisors meet early and often with our students, building their success plans, helping them to develop organizational skills, how to schedule and manage their resources if they plan to work, and how does that fit into the picture? Scheduling study and tutorial times, along with socializing and free time. Our model to academic advising is a strength-based approach. It's a model that promotes student achievement and helps to generate students' confidences and enhances their ability to problem solve. Equally important is the relationships that we cultivate with instructors and professors. Our collaborative relationships across the campus have been a vital retention tool, and it really aids in the mission of our student success. It's not uncommon for instructors to bring a concern to an advisor's attention before the matter can escalate. Instructors are also vital to our early response initiatives. The midterm progress survey each semester allows for faculty feedback early while it can still make a difference. When we receive feedback early enough, our involvement and our intervention is that much more effective. And to assimilate more Black male students into the culture and the expectations of the university that are not in SOAR or that are not in GAME, and to provide them a community of support, we are launching the Black Male Initiative. In addition to connecting them with our alumni, we'll be utilizing high impact practices to improve their qualitative experiences and increase their academic success and their semester to semester retention and graduation and postgraduate acceptance rate. And we will continue to identify and promote and raise and advocate for issues that directly impact underrepresented populations. And now, the first African-American distinguished research professor in SIUE's history, Dr. Howard Ramsey.
Thank you so much. I'll be brief today. It's so good to see all of you all, and thanks for the work you do on behalf of SIUE. I've been working with the Game and Fame program for over 10 years now, so I guess it means I should be getting my gold watch in the mail at some point, because it feels like I've been doing this a lifetime. Game and program Fame, they do so many valuable things, but in the interest of time, I want to just distill it down to 3 bullet points. The first one is this: we serve as a vital connector for first-year Black men and women. This is an image of our group. We take them before the pandemic. Every year we take them to Cincinnati to a couple of museums, and it's a tradition to do a photo at the end. And so this is one of our group photos that we did exactly about 5 years ago. And I can know that because I just remember going to the graduation of many of the students who are pictured in here. But when I say serve as a connector, I mean, we connect them to resources. We connect them to different people on campus. My expertise is in African-American literature. So I also connect them to various books, various poems, various writers. So that's one thing that I think stands out. And also, as this picture demonstrates, we put them in touch with each other. At a PWI like SIUE and all across the country, it's very difficult sometimes to get students connected to each other. So that's one of the big things we do. Another major thing we do, and this is for the GAME program, I think I connect them gateway to new learning experiences. We're constantly doing things that they did not experience when they were in high school. And that's one of the things they talk about early on. We always talk about the second or third week, we started talking about the letter we're going to write to Miss Crabtree, our high school teacher, who failed to introduce us to Malcolm X, to Richard Wright, to Toni Morris, and all these writers. So that's one thing, gateway to new experiences. I wanted to show there have been about 540 guys who've gone through the program since I've been there. But one who stands out that I wanted to mention just today is Domati Pungo. He was in the class of 2000, the cohort of 2008, but he's now a journalist for MTV. And he also hosts his own show called True Crime Life. We're really proud of him as one of our graduates. So it lets you know that there are all kinds of results like that. Secondly, is Fame. Many things again, but if I narrowed it down to one thing, I would say it served as a space for multiple Black women voices. The young women in the class don't always realize it, but as early as possible when we get in there, I start asking them about voices that mattered to them most. And time again, they name Black women voices. And so that's something we think about, write about, and discuss throughout the time we have together, what Black voices and particularly what Black women voices mean in their lives. And so I showed you a couple of images, one with them listening on the right, they're listening to audio exhibit, which we do often. And then another one was just them, we were doing a dance activity and they were having a good time. And I think about these images often because many of my images in my mind are of them having a good time with each other. And particularly at moments like this where they forget that I'm there. I think that's when I really see so much learning going on. Next up, I mentioned one of our GAME students, but I'll mention a current, well, actually a past one, but he's kind of current. He serves as my GA, but he was also a GAME student many years ago, Gabe Nsinga. He's also a doctor. He earned his pharmacy degree from Howard University after he left SIUE, and now he's back earning a master's at SIUE. Gabe, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramsey. So I was part of GAME in 2013, 2014, and the program really shed some light on things that I was missing that I didn't know I was missing. GAME was the first time I was in a classroom full of Black students, and Dr. Ramsey was one of the two Black professors I had here at SIUE during my undergraduate career. After my freshman year, I wouldn't have that type of experience until I was at Howard University. GAME allowed me to grow and think critically. There were several articles and books assigned by Dr. Ramsey. And at the time, it felt like a lot of reading for a freshman course. However, it really helped me develop my reading comprehension and my public speaking. And he was never afraid to call out students. He would always ask for them to share their thoughts. And that was the only time I really, truly did feel confident and free of judgment to answer questions. Even if I was wrong, I felt as if I could grow in that classroom environment. I was blessed. They saw the potential in me in the Soar office, worked with me, and helped me develop as a young leader on campus. I was the Janetta Haley representative for 2 years, and I was called to speak at different Soar events and different springboard sessions. I was also introduced to different faculty and staff here at SIUE, and without Soar or GAME, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. Being around Dr. Ramsey, Dr. Patterson, and the other Soar staff, they really just pushed me and helped me and supported me. And 8 years later, they're still pushing me and helping me succeed. And so I wouldn't have had those opportunities or experiences if I wasn't part of GAME.
Next up, we'll have our student from FAME. Thank you, Gabe. We'll have our student from FAME who will speak, JC Nunnery.
Hello, everyone. In 2019, I became a student of the FAME program. I was a first generation college student. So the number of people that could give me tips and advice on just how to navigate college was very limited. My mom and I were very anxious and nervous about my college journey for this reason. Upon meeting Dr. Patterson, my anxiousness and nervousness quickly withered away because Dr. P made me feel very safe on campus. I immediately trusted her as I would a relative. Sure enough, her impression that Dr. P had, like with my mom and me, proved to be genuine and consistent. The FAME's program longevity and impact would not exist without the work of Dr. P and Ramsey. Some may believe that scouting dedicated Black students at SIUE to be a part of the FAME program is a challenge. But I think the real challenge is prioritizing the needs of each FAME student and creating a safe space for their voices to be heard and appreciated. I can proudly say that Dr. P and Ramsey overcame these challenges with grace and ease. I would not be the student I am today without the guidance of Dr. P, Ramsey, and the FAME program. FAME's impact on my collegiate experience has ignited a passion in me that I did not know I had prior to going to college. I hope to take the practices of both Dr. P and Ramsey to create more safe places for Black and Brown students at predominantly white institutions.
Although 100%, thank you for those beautiful words, JC. I'm moved. Although 100% of our students, participants, male and female, present with levels of identifiable risks to graduation, participation in Soar and or FAME and or GAME lead to an increase in yearly retention rates and graduation rates. What makes the Soar team? Daryl Cherry, Kelsey Cutright, Sade Shepard, Kaylani Short, and Aaron Myers. What makes them different? I can best answer that by sharing the recurring theme that I commonly hear from our students. I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel understood. And my team considers themselves partners in each student's success. In SOAR, it's about partnership. We thank you for this time.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from trustee members?
Yes, Dr. Hightower, I would have comment first and then a question. I'm very much impressed with this kind of setup. Thank you, Dr. Peterson, for taking care of our students. Quick question on related, is there any similar thing for the first generation students on campus?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. The first generation student is a participant in our program because indeed that is a category of students that is eligible in terms of retention criteria and the risk associated with first generation students oftentimes is different. And so those are included, those students are included as a part of the Soar student population. Many of our students are first generation, as myself.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments from trustees? Dr. Patterson, Dr. Ramsey, thank you, and others for the outstanding presentation and the wonderful work that you're doing. It's obvious you're making a difference, and we certainly appreciate the commitment and dedication that you are bringing to the job every day. Thank you, and I think the students need to get back to class. I tried to talk to our president and chancellor to write a pass so that the students would not have to get back as quickly. But they said that, you know, Dr. Patterson, they would need to get board approval, and we couldn't get our chair to bring that to them. We're gonna have.
I don't think so.
We're gonna have to get the students back to class. So thank you all so much for your presentation.
Yeah, Dr. Hightower, can I just say a word real quick before they leave? Just, you know, I've been involved with this type of stuff before. When I was at Kent State, we developed an office that did some similar type of work and saw some success. But the success we've seen really at the Edwardsville campus from Soar, Fame, and Game is really pretty remarkable. And it's impressive, I think, what they're doing there. What I found, certainly my experience at Kent State, is it really came down to having great leadership. So thank you, Dr. Patterson. Thank you, Dr. Ramsey. I think really now we're trying to figure out is how to expand and do even more in that area. But clearly the things you're doing is making a huge difference for our students. So thank you for all of that. And thank you for the students for presenting and talking about your experiences. That's, I think, meaningful for all of us to hear.
Thank you.
Good deal. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Moving on, endorsement of SIU System Strategic Plan. Dr. Gupchuk.
Yeah, well, thank you to the SOAR group. You're doing excellent work. So moving on to the strategic plan, I'd first like to sincerely thank everyone in the SIU System Strategic Planning process for their efforts. They're too numerous to name, but a great job. This was truly a system-wide effort. I'd like to request one of our co-facilitators, Dean John Politz, to present the SIU System Strategic Plan 2022 to 2026 for endorsement. We were going to have Dr. Lakeisha Butler, who is also co-facilitator with us, but unfortunately she couldn't make it today. You should have a copy of the SIU System Strategic Plan report in your packets. And so Dean Politz, would you please present? John, I don't think we can hear you. Dr. Hightower, can you hear him? Or?
Yeah, no, I have muted. You know, I've only been doing this for 2 years, so it's taken me a little while to get used to it. I apologize. Please. There we go. Let's try this again. All right, can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes.
All right, good. Well, we started out with the charge from President Mahoney, and I think the that got us going about a year, almost a year and a half ago. So it's been I think we're very diligent. We may be behind what the hoped schedule was, but I want to impress upon you today how diligent we were in our coming up with this strategic plan that we hope you will support. I think the salient points here are the attempt in this structure, in the process, to get input from all constituency groups, alumnus, and the external community. And I think we did a pretty good job at that. And also, the system plan should overlap with strategic plans from both campuses. And that was part of I mean, we kept that in our mind the whole time. Now, let's see. Okay, I got to go back to the old way of doing things. So some of the input we got, working groups that came up with the reports early on. They were called together by the president. A review of past system plans, and important here is a survey of stakeholders. And we got over 3,900 responses. We took those to town halls to have more people, provide input. And then we used the applied research consultants here on the SIUC campus to assist us with data analysis. Once we did that, or in that process, the first step was to construct our vision and mission statements. And the broad vision was to contribute to the betterment of society. The 4 questions that we focused on is, what do we do? How do we do it? Whom do we do it for? And what value are we bringing to the area? So once we came up with our vision and mission, we went on to construct what our goals are to accomplish that. We had a number of meetings where we formulated our goals and that would help to operationalize the vision and mission of our plan. And this is what we came up with. We had 6 goal themes. The vision: empower people and transform the world. And then the mission statement, which is a little more practical and down to earth. Out of that, we came up with academic innovation and student success, anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion, community impact. And you see how this works with what we just heard this morning. Research and creative activity and partnerships, faculty and staff, and infrastructure. Once we had those, we sent it out to another group to design the objectives for each goal and each theme, along with, and this is the part where we hope to create a document that is operationalized. It can be operationalized. So the objectives, we got 3 to 5 objectives for each goal. We came up, you'll see in the strategic plan, each one of those objectives has 3 to 5 strategies, and then metrics. And this was very important, metrics to let us know if how well we were succeeding. And then finally, in that document, we also identified who will be responsible for the various objectives and what resources they will need. We followed the idea of SMART strategies: to be specific, to be measurable, to be attainable, and to be relevant. And also, everyone had a time base to it. So we had a number of system champions Of course, we involved everyone from the system. Our working groups consisted of 73 members from each campus, or from together representing both all campuses. The strategic planning committee was made up of 33 representatives from the community and each of our campuses. Our goal committees were represented. We had 63 people on those committees, and then the subcommittee that was working all this summer and fall were a crack group of dedicated people numbering 12. And we did work very hard, I think. So what's next? The plan will be monitored. The committee will stay and meet on at least an annual, to oversee an annual progress reports submitted to the Vice President for Academic, to Dr. Budget. And then the President will annually update the board. That's a very quick rundown of how the process went. You've heard us before. You have the strategic plan. I want to emphasize that I believe we have the structures in place to assure that this is an active plan, a strategic plan, and it won't sit on the shelf. So I encourage you to support this, to endorse this in your vote. And I think there's been it's been a thoughtful process. I thank my co-facilitator, Lakeisha Butler, all the people that worked on these very various groups. They were very serious. They took their jobs seriously. And then finally, Dr. Budget. And then, oh yeah, can't forget Penny Moon. She really kept the ball rolling. She kept us on track. So if there are any questions, please fire away.
Let me just say, as Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees, this is an outstanding document. I've read it from cover to cover, and you guys have hit all of the critical areas to move the university system forward, giving us a footprint that we can build upon, and but at the same time, given each of the campuses the autonomy to still move forward. As this new Board of Trustees came on board a couple of years ago, our primary goal was to move away from the each campus doing its own thing, but having a system focus so that we could find our niche in higher education. And what you've done, you've laid out, and I'm going to repeat the two terms you stated so well, Dr. Pollack. This is an active plan. It is very active. It is well done. It's very achievable. And it keeps all of our campuses moving in the same direction. But again, giving them the opportunity to keep their own identity. And I think this is what this Board of Trustees was seeking. And we give President Mahoney just major kudos for taking the lead and being so aggressive and getting this plan up and operational. And we're already seeing the benefits of the outstanding work that so many people are doing. So let me just open it up to the full Board of Trustees and give you an opportunity to make comments or ask questions not just from the Academic Affairs Committee. So it's open to the full board.
This is Sheriff Gilbert, and I too have read it from cover to cover and think it's a outstanding document. And I'm impressed that it's going to be an active document. It's not going to sit on a shelf and have to be and people forget about it. It's going to be reviewed, and we're going to follow up with the plan and to move the system forward. And like you said, Dr. Hightower, it brings the two campuses closer together and working together. And I think that was one of the goals of the strategic plan. And I again want to compliment those that have worked on it.
Comments from other trustees?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Hightower and the Chair Gilbert, and congratulate President Mahoney. I'm very impressed with the plan. I read it. And to my recollection, probably this is the first system plan in the last 10, 15 years. I do not know when was the last done. Dr. Hightower, do you recall?
We wrote one probably about 10 years ago, but it was not very active.
Never saw on, at least it came through the faculty. So this is very impressive, and it is very impressive, and it will be, faculty will take note of it if it is circulated to the faculty and with the campus plans, so they are aware of it. That is the next step needed in this one.
Yes.
Right.
If there are no other, thank you. If there are no other comments, is there a motion to approve the committee item 3?
So Dr. Mahoney wants to make a comment.
Okay, fine. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's hard. I don't know if you can see me. We can't see anybody here. Okay, yeah, we can now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So just a couple of things. One is that Dean Pollack talked about it. It took a little more time than we had hoped. I always say I was mentored by a guy who would have given us a charge to do a strategic plan, and we would ask when it needed to be done, and he'd say Friday by 5 is good. So I was brought up in that world. So everything always takes longer than I expect. But the quality of the work that's done sometimes takes some time, and this is certainly really well done. As I think was pointed out, I think there have been plans for the system, and I'm not sure they've ever done one with the extensive involvement. Again, there's probably about 150 unique individuals that have been involved throughout this process, actively involved, in addition to the several thousand that commented online. And when you're doing something new and different than you've done before, that takes a little bit more time as well to do it right. And there's things you have to work through, as I think Dr. Hightower pointed out. Part of the idea of the plan is to make sure that we are doing things at the system level to facilitate and help the system be better, help the campuses be better, but allow the campuses to have the autonomy they should. And so there were, I know, different versions of the plan to be things in there. I'm like, no, that's the campus's responsibility, and I'm going to stay in my lane. And that's not something that we need to have in a system plan. That's something they can focus on as a campus. But this is really more about how we collaborate across the system, how we work together to make the whole better by doing everything together. So I do want to thank really everybody who's been involved in this process, all of the committee members for their hard work, Vice President Louis Takeover for his leadership, as well as the leadership of Dr. Letitia Butler and Dean John Politz. Again, given the challenges of putting together a plan like this for the first time and bringing everybody together, they did a fantastic job and really came up with a great end product. I'm certainly supportive of everything that is in there. I'm excited about the future. I will also point out one of the things that will go along with this plan that we'll share with you later is a scorecard that will have some real numerical goals in each of the different areas that we will monitor ourselves all the time on every year, so we know whether we're really making progress on the goals that we have in the strategic plan. So that will come subsequent to the plan itself, but that is coming as well. So thank you.
Excellent. Very well said. Thank you so much. Now move to the motion. Is there a motion to approve the committee item 3?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
The motion passes. Moving on to the athletic report, Dr. Gupchak.
Thank you, Dr. Hightower. I would like to request our athletics directors, Tim Hall at SIUE and Matt Kupek at SIUC, to please present their student athlete academic reports. You will see that our student athletes, while doing an excellent job in their sports, are also performing extremely well academically. Mr. Hall, would you please present first, followed by Mr. Kupek? Thank you for everything that your athletic departments and student athletes bring to our system. Tim?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's good to be with all of you to once again, speak so positively about the academic success and academic pursuits of our student athletes. I know that you've received the document that we submitted a while back, and what I'd like to do is very quickly pull out some high points from the documents. Along with me today is our Deputy Athletics Director, who oversees a number of areas, but the most important is our academics, Jackie DeClue, and Jackie is going to post the report up on the screens for you to be able to take a look at. And so I'd like to draw your attention first and foremost to page 2, which will talk about our academic points of pride. And so certainly number 1, the spring 2021 semester marked our 30th consecutive semester over a 3.0 GPA. So that's 15 years. That's really, really impressive. Under number 2, 75% of our student athletes, 75% had a semester GPA of 3.0 or higher. This is something we're really proud of. Number 3, 2021, our graduation success rate of 93%. 14 was number 14 in all of Division I institutions and number 2 in the state of Illinois. Number 4, again, something we're really happy about. 6 of our teams earned perfect scores on the GSR report. You can see that those scores are listed there. And then finally, in the NCAA public recognition announcement, 7 SIUE teams received top 10% recognition for APR. And that was the most earned by any Ohio Valley Conference member. Next, I'd like to turn your attention to Table 1 on page 4. And you'll see that our male and female student athletes did better than the general student body in terms of grade point average for both the 1920 and 2021 academic years. On that same page, Table 2, you'll see that by and large, all of our minority constituencies had more success than those general populations at large on the campus. On page 5, at the very bottom, Table 5, something else we're really proud about here is the very low number of student athletes that we have on any kind of academic probation. Page 6, table number 6, you'll see that our student athlete federal graduation rate is significantly higher than the overall student body at SIUE and then also within other members of the Ohio Valley Conference. And then finally, Table 8, the graduation success rate, which for those who may not know, it's the federal graduation rate, but it does take into consideration transfers. And you can see again, and I mentioned it earlier, our student athletes are at a very high level, second in the state of Illinois and second in our league only to Belmont University. And again, they were 14th overall last year. So that concludes my report, other than to say, we have some really great coaches here who understand the value of academics and that our young people are here to be educated to be the future leaders of society. the work that our academic advisors and our coaches do to emphasize the importance of athletics, I really believe is unmatched. Are there any questions?
No, well done. Congratulations to our student athletes and the wonderful job that you and others are doing to steer our athletes in the proper direction. So congratulations. Excellent report.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll follow Tim. My name is Matt Kupek. I know many of you. I'm the interim director of athletics here at SIU. Been in this role for 5 months and just blown away, like Tim has just reported, of just what our student athletes are doing. It's really impressive. So we got a quick slideshow here. We're going to take a few minutes to talk about our achievements as well. But I just want to share this. Our colleague was out at the University of Kansas last week and at the great Allen Fieldhouse. And on the wall, there's only a few. Dean Smith, Roy Williams, and Ed Hightower are just a few. And here's a quote from Trustee Hightower that sits on the wall at Allen Fieldhouse. I guess he made that after a Kansas win, and he made a lot of good favorable calls for the Jayhawks, Trustee Hightower. But this is pretty cool. We wanted to share it. It reflects your career and all you have done in sports. So we appreciate that, but wanted to start with that. At SIU, this is quickly, we want to win in the classroom, we want to win in the field, and we want to win in the community. And we do want to be a national leader. This is going to take a little sounding points for Saluki athletics, a few highlights on the left right here. I know this is an academic report, but this is Mackenzie Sylvie, who became our all-time leading scorer about a couple of weeks ago, and she was honored at the during a timeout of our men's basketball game and got a rousing standing ovation from the Banterra Center crowd. It was very, very overwhelming, and it was just great that she's a great student athlete, as most of our student athletes are. You can see here just a litany of a few of the highlights. 12 of our 15 Saluki teams earned their highest ever GPA. Softball was ranked second nationally, trailing only Stanford University. That's Stanford out in Palo Alto. Our football team was only one of 5 teams to reach the Sweet 16 and the FCS championships. Women's basketball team is in a virtual tie right now for the lead in the NBC, and our crowds at the Banterra Center have been outstanding. This is just a few more in the success in the classroom we shared with you. I'm not going to read all of this, but it talks about the combined GPA of our student athletes, 3.552. I was a former athlete at the University of North Carolina. Our student athletes did not have this kind of success, I can tell you that. But yet, in the classroom, in the community, our students are involved and engaged. Saluki Unity, they're very involved. We've hosted a charity run walk to raise awareness for social injustice and racial discrimination. A number of our student athletes are winning the Good Student Award, the Good Neighbor Award. So just wanted to share that quickly before we get more detailed here. Quickly on the highlights, this is a chart that shows GPA by program, by sport. And then what we bring in here, you can see the average for the student athlete is 3.5, and which is higher than the average of all the population of students. Again, a remarkable achievement. This is by sport on the right. As Tim told you about with his program, 7 of our teams have earned 1,000 on the APR. Just incredible success, leadership by our students, our coaches, and just the whole team there in athletics. And here I reference it right down here. 7 of our programs achieved that 1,000 mark. And then the last slide here is just, and Tim mentioned some of the factors on graduation success rates, federal graduation rates, and the academic progress rates. We have met 2 of the 3 criteria in each of the last 4 years. And I guess a great testimony to all the people in athletics, our coaches, the support staff, and everybody else. But the future of Saluki athletics is very, very bright, and it's founded in that we're going to be great student athletes in the class and on the community as well. That's all I have. Any
Well,
questions?
guys, you said you've only been there for 5 months?
Well, I'm the CEO of the SIU Foundation.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but you've been over the athletics for just 5 months.
Correct.
You've done an incredible job with with the GPAs and what these young people are doing just in 5 months. So, you know, if you stay on for another 5 months, gosh, these young people would just be absolutely off the chart. You know, it's just incredible. But on a serious note, both you and Tim are to be congratulated on the wonderful, wonderful job that our young people are doing in the classroom, away from the classroom, on the court, on the field, in athletics, and being the leaders that we hope that they will be and set an example for other young people. So great, great job. Are there questions or comments from any other trustees?
Very impressive.
Okay, well, thank you so much, both of you. This concludes our business before the Academic Matters Committee. So this meeting is adjourned. Mr. Chair, I give it back to you.
And thank you, Dr. Hightower. The next meeting is the Finance Committee meeting. Mr. Tedrick, please proceed.
Can't hear you.
Roger, you're muted.
You are on mute.
Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry. The first item is approval of minutes of the meeting held December 2nd, 2021. Do I hear a motion to accept?
Who moved?
So second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Tedrick,
Yes?
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
and Sharma.
Yes.
The minutes are approved. Committee item 2 is proposed revisions to Board of Trustees bylaws and policies. Senior Vice President Stuckey, will you speak to this item?
Thank you, Chair Tedrick. For the rest of the committee members and the rest of the board, I've had an opportunity to review the issues that have arisen in administering this policy since its inception with Chair Tedrick. He agrees that the board bylaws and policies should be returned to the original form and this provision be deleted. We ask for your approval.
Is there any discussion? Is there a motion from the Finance Committee to approve this item?
Who moved?
So second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Tedrick,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
And the item is approved. Committee item 3 proposes approval of salary and appointment for the Executive Director of University Communications and Marketing at SIUC. Chancellor Lane.
Thank you, Chairman Tedrick. I'm pleased to present for approval Mr. Jim Potter as the new Executive Director of the Office of University Communications and Marketing. As the campus's Chief Marketing Officer, Jim brings a wealth of experience in the corporate marketing world, gained over 3 decades working with world-class brands such as Nestle Purina, Procter & Gamble, and Delta Airlines. Most recently, he was the managing director for Nestle Purina in St. Louis, where he served more than a decade leading integrated communication solutions across more than 20 brands, which accounted for more than $10 billion in sales. Jim has a bachelor's and master's degree, science degree from the University of Illinois. So I respectfully submit this matter for your consideration.
I understand the search committee that assisted you in this search were some very highly qualified people, both internally and externally. It looks like we really got a good person. All right, is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve this?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Madam Secretary, would you please perform a roll call vote?
Tedrick,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
The item is approved by the committee, and Dr. Stuckey, I think this is the shortest agenda we've ever had in the Finance Committee. I'm not complaining, I'm just, all right. If there's no further business before the Finance Committee, the meeting is adjourned. Mr. Chair.
The next, thank you, Mr. Tedrick. The next meeting is the Architectural and Design Committee meeting. Mr. Simmons, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 6 items today. The first item is the approval of the minutes from December 2nd, 2021. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
I'll second. Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Simmons,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Tedrick.
Yes.
Committee item number 2 proposes to designate real estate as surplus and authorize to sell real estate to Edwardsville, Illinois for SIUE. Chancellor Pembroke, could you speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Trustee Simmons. This matter proposes a section of property in the vicinity of Yellowhammer Road on the northeast corner of campus be deemed surplus real estate by the Board of Trustees and further authorizes the sale of the property to Madison County Transit for $1. This property would then be used in an extension of the Delight Morris Trail. As part of this transaction, Madison County Transit is planning to extend the bike trail system and construct a new bridge to facilitate the direct connection of the SIUE Delight Morris Trail with the Goshen Trail. MCT has been awarded grant funding for this purpose. This would enhance the value and usability of the SIUE Delight Morris Trail stretching to downtown Edwardsville. It also eliminates SIUE's expenses related to upkeep and maintenance on this property. We recommend this matter for approval.
Thank you, Chancellor Pembroke. Is there a motion to approve committee item 2?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Simmons,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Tedrick.
Yes.
Motion passes. Board agenda item N is to be considered. Next is committee items 3 and 4. We'll do those together. They're capital items for the School of Medicine. Dean Cruz, would you mind presenting these?
Go ahead and mute, Terry.
It's the Wabash Avenue.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Nope.
This is item O, and it's approval to acquire real estate on Wabash Avenue in Springfield. That's the southwest part of Springfield. It is an investment for the future for the School of Medicine, where we envision a medical office building that will also house facilities for clinical education. It's a 9-acre tract with an appraised value of $2,350,000. And the owner has agreed to sell the property for $2,350,000. Non-appropriated funds would be used, and we seek approval for that item. Do you wish me to?
Moved.
Okay. Yeah, if you go ahead with item P.
You want item P? Okay. Item P is an update of an item that we had approved at the December 2nd, 2021 meeting for renovations to our clinical building, the Moy building. The cost of the renovations will exceed the estimated cost by $108,889. Since this is a renovation, not a construction and a state contract, it did not need to go out to bid, but went through the state purchasing office job order contracting. And so we asked for this work to be done by Core Construction of Peoria, Illinois for the amount listed.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Dean Cruz. Is there a motion to approve committee items 3 and 4?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second that. Madam Secretary, will you mind calling this roll, please?
Simmons,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Tedrick.
Yes.
Declare the motion to have passed, and these items will be placed on the board's omnibus call here in a little bit. Committee item 5 is an award of contracts for the Carbondale campus, and I believe Ms. McReynolds will speak to this. Is that right?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This matter seeks approval to award the contracts for HVAC and electrical for the replacement of the chillers at the East Campus chiller plant. As a reminder, the project was approved at the Board of Trustees meeting on December 2nd, 2021, and construction is projected to begin in the fall of this year. There were 2 bids received for the HVAC work and 2 bids received for the electrical work. The lowest bidder was chosen for each. Southern Illinois Piping Contractors entered the lowest bid for the HVAC work at $1,298,000, and W.J. Burke Electric Company entered the lowest bid for the electrical work at $473,500. These approvals are requested so work can begin on time. Thank you for your consideration of this request.
Thank you very much, Ms. McReynolds. Is there a motion to approve committee item number 5?
So moved.
Thank you, and I'll second that. And Madam Secretary, would you call this roll, please?
Simmons,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Tedrick.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item Q is approved, our committee item 5. Next is committee item 6 is a presentation of fundraising for Touch of Nature. This is an informational report. It's for the building at SIU Seed. And Chancellor Lane, would you introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Simmons. I'm going to have Matt Kupek. Matt, if you would present this item for us.
Thank you, Chancellor. I will say our colleague Julie gets to talk about the HVAC and chillers, and we get to talk about something that we think is pretty cool here in terms of Touch of Nature. So just quickly, it's 5 slides. It is just information. Touch of Nature is a jewel on our campus. Just a little bit on the right side, 3,100 acres, largest outdoor park in Illinois. 100 buildings are on there. Those dots you see on the screen represent those buildings. One of the only 10 university outdoor education centers in America. One of only 3 parks in Illinois with National Park Service designation. It's truly a joy, a jewel. Our next slide looks at, and it's also represents what is great about a public university, where teaching, research, and public service are intertwined and work fabulously, where our students take advantage of this great facility out there. Our faculty do research, and it is a great, you can see we bring 15,000 visitors to Touch of Nature. And we're going to talk to you about, we're in a big campaign right now. We think we have the opportunity here, a realistic opportunity to create the nation's premier outdoor education center right here at Touch of Nature in Carbondale. And there are 2 buildings that we want to bring to you where we have talked to donors, that donors have committed the dollars. The first is what we're calling right now the Wildlife Habitat Education Center. It would also serve as part of a visitor center when you come to Touch of Nature. Estimated cost at this point is $3 million. The donor has committed to that, and we've received a great deal of that gift already. In this case, the donor is also committing to an endowment, $2 million for the for a use for the center going forward. That's that 4%. That's about $80,000 in perpetuity for the support and keeping maintenance of this facility. So that's one project, Trustee Simmons, we want to share with you today. And the second is a complementary building out there called the Event Center. that will support trail users as a gathering space and pre-post hike and bike space. Estimated cost is $500,000. The Southern Illinois University Credit Union has already made the commitment to fund this facility. Again, we believe Touch of Nature will bring an additional 125,000 visitors to this region each and every year. It is already, we have 10 miles of bike trails. We will grow to 30 miles of bike trails. This truly will become one of the country's great gems. So these are two building projects we wanted to bring before you today. We're working with the system, and this is the SIU Foundation, working with our campus folks, and we would be coming back with you with designs and for your approval, and but we just wanted to start this out today and bring this for your information.
Thank you very much for the informational report. I appreciate that. And thank you, Dr. Lane, as well. Anyone have any further business for the Architect and Design Committee?
Yeah, Mr. Simmons,
Yes.
just a comment on this Touch of Nature presentation. This is a little different than we've ever had looked at before, because it's the foundation is doing it instead of the university doing it, and it's completely funded by a donor. And I would say that there will be more of these types of situations come before us, but it's a good situation to have.
It makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
Sure does.
And I'd like to follow up on what Trustee Tedrick said, that, you know, the Touch of Nature is not only one of the crown jewels of the Illinois University system, but also the state of Illinois. And I think it's pretty much recognized that the Touch of Nature was the birthplace of Special Olympics under an individual that Roger Tedrick and I knew as Dr. Freeberg. It is people that if they haven't been to Touch of Nature, that is one of the crown jewels we have in our system.
Very good. Well, if there's no other business, the Architect and Design Committee stands adjourned. Mr. Chair, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Simmons. The full board meeting is now reconvened. The next item of business is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of the board held December 2nd of last year. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Trustee Tedrick, seconded by Trustee Curtis. Ms. Whittington, please call the roll.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Are there any trustee reports? I don't think there are any. The next, we'll go for the committee reports. I will report the executive committee has not met between board meetings. Our next item of business is the executive officers report. President Mahoney, will you present the report for the SIU system?
Yeah, and I have just a few updates. So our first update on COVID, campuses are continuing to see a decline. I think at this point, we're in about the 3% or less range, generally around that point, as far as COVID positive cases. Certainly a dramatic decline from what it was back in early January. And while certainly there's been a decline across the state of Illinois and across the country, what we've seen on our campuses always is we've been well below what those averages have been and have usually declined at a more rapid rate. So again, I think what we've been doing from a safety perspective has worked very well. I will say we are blessed to have Dean Cruz and the expertise we have at the School of Medicine. I talked to President and Chancellor colleagues across the country and across the state. Not everybody has that. So as we're making decisions, we're relying very much on that advice, and that has been incredibly helpful to us. And we may not be done, there may be other rounds, but the fact that we can get that advice and get that advice really quickly has allowed us to be in a better position than most places. The chancellors, I'm sure, will provide some more detail about enrollment numbers and recruitment and where we're looking for fall of 2022, and there's still really a long way to go, but certainly increases in application and acceptances and some of the things we're seeing are very positive signs. We are now, of course, moving. We talked earlier about the governor's proposal. We do have Senate appropriation hearing on February 17th. So next week, we will be doing that presentation and going before the House group on March 10th. So all that's coming up fairly soon. I've actually been asked to present, representing all of the Illinois public four-year institutions, to the Illinois Advisory Committee on the U.S. Civil Rights Commission. They're doing a hearing on February 22nd. Seeking to better understand the concerns about post-secondary education among African Americans, Latinos, and other underrepresented groups. I think certainly some of the things we've been doing relative to anti-racism, diversity, equity, inclusion has put us in a position where a lot of us are being asked to provide testimony and provide expertise on some of these areas. So I think people are recognizing that good work. I will say Vice President Caldwell has continued to move forward with a lot of things. We have another conversation of understanding on the 15th next week at 12 noon. We'll focus on African-American history at SIU. We also had a retreat at the beginning of January that she organized and led of all of the diversity leaders across the system. And I think we have about a dozen people there at the front end of that meeting, and really it's impressive to see that many people and that many good people working towards our goals. And again, that is one of our major strategic plan goals as well. We had a meeting on Monday of the Illinois Commission on Equitable Public University Funding. This was the second meeting. And again, this is the group looking at a new budget model for Illinois and higher education. This meeting, we reviewed the Oregon model, which I think led to some really great discussions, both what it did and what it didn't do. But we still really have a lot more to go over the next couple of years. But we're heading, I think, in the right direction as a group, and really seem to have a really healthy discussion on Monday. I'm going to end with basically recognizing this is the last meeting for Chancellor Pembroke. So it's an opportunity really to say thank you to him for his dedicated service to the SIUE campus since 2016. And really during my 2 years here, Chancellor Pembroke really had managed through the pandemic and a number of challenges that we all face in higher education. And I will say throughout all of that, he's been a thoughtful service leader, consistently kept the best interest of the student, faculty, and staff as a priority in really every decision he has made, and I've been impressed by that. I appreciate his support and advice during my transition to this role and really throughout the last 2 years, and want to thank him also for, I know, all the work he's been doing with the incoming Chancellor, Chancellor Minor, as he prepares to take over on March 1st. I really say often the best ways to judge any leader on their success is, particularly in higher education, is whether they've left the university in a better place than where they started, and whether they've set the next leader up for success. And I think in Chancellor Pembroke's case, the answer is yes and yes. So again, thank you very much for all that you've done.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege.
Okay, Chancellor Lane, will you present your report for the Carbondale campus?
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman. I appreciate that. And I'm just going to piggyback on what Dr. Mahoney just said for Dr. Pembroke. He welcomed me with open arms. I remember he was one of the first phone calls I received when I got the job, and I've appreciated watching and learning from him, and really have enjoyed working with him, and hopefully continue to do that in some other capacities. And so I know that we'll stay connected. On that note, Matt, can you put up our slides? I don't know if you're out there. Let's go to slide 2. As you know, we've got a lot of snow here, and it's starting to melt now. So on the second slide that I'm going to show you, Matt, if we can go forward, that hill is actually all grass now. So if you were thinking about jumping out there with all of our students, it's gone, it's melted away. But that seems to be outside of Saluki Way, one of the main attractions when it snows here. Everybody runs to that hill. We started the spring semester on time with the first week of remote instruction, followed by in-person classes. We were cautiously optimistic. We got through that first week unharmed. And so really want to thank all of the COVID planning committees, the Emergency Operations Center, Readiness Laboratories came through very big for us with all of our testing. Our Student Health Center did a phenomenal job along with our faculty, our staff, our students, for really taking part in getting tested, doing their part in getting tested. And so really appreciate that. In the first few weeks of classes, we tested 6,700, we administered 6,700 COVID tests, which again, Redditors did an amazing job to help us with that. We continue to post the results and be transparent on our COVID dashboard. We'll continue to do that. You can see our positivity rates. You can see exactly what's happening here. So we're going to continue in that effort. Matt, next slide. We have some new commercials, and this really, you heard Dr. Mahoney talk about the fantastic system-wide strategic plan that we have in place. I think you'll find that a lot of the plan pieces that we have here on campus connect very nicely to the overall system plan. But wanted to show you just very quickly, Matt, on the left, if you can click the commercial for us.
Imagine. Imagine new beginnings. Imagine discovering new ways to feed the world. And imagine telling stories that need to be heard. Imagine fighting for social justice. And imagine traditions that bring us together. Imagine unique environments. And imagine going from the classroom to the boardroom. Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. Imagine the possibilities.
So next slide for us to really set up our strategic plan, the Imagine 2030 plan.
Imagine new beginnings.
There you go. There we go. All right. So Imagine 2030 is our strategic plan. And let's go to the next slide, Matt. I think you'll find that a lot of what you heard earlier today in terms of our pillars fit quite nicely into the overall strategic plan. Our 5 pillars: student success and engagement, diversity, equity and inclusion, branding and partnerships, research, innovation, and sustainability. We have, it's not the chancellor's strategic plan or the chancellor's pillars. This came from all of our faculty, staff, students, community members, alums that all participated in helping us craft our strategic plan. And so we're excited about that. Next slide, Matt. If you take a look on the right-hand side, we're really excited about the success we're having in bringing down. If you notice, those arrows are going down. If you look in 2019, as it relates to our spring enrollment, we were down in 2019, 11.6, in 2020, 8.6, 2021, 3.8, to now being down 1.8%, which is really what we projected to be as we started to look at our enrollment and how we could stop the downward spiral. And so we're feeling really good about where we are with even our spring enrollment. If you look in the middle, the students, remember we brought in the largest freshman class in the last 5 years this past fall. Those students are being retained at a rate of 84.1%. So we're also excited about that fall to spring retention rate. Obviously also looking at fall to fall and making sure those students progress to the fall semester. You look on the left, we're really excited about our applications being up 36.6%. That's a very big number. And most importantly, the admits are up 38.4%. So we're going to continue to work through on that number. We've moved our efforts from now recruiting in the fall to in the spring, working on yielding events. So next slide. Our yielding events, this is one example of a yield event. When I say yield, I'm talking about how do we convert those applications to admits to actually registrations. And so that's going to be our goal over the next few months leading up to the beginning of the fall semester. One of our yielding events, our St. Louis Takeover. This is very similar to what we did in Chicago back in the fall. We have a lot of partnerships and agreements, MOUs that we'll be signing. A lot of our partners that are there from obviously schools that we're connecting with, community colleges, and also corporations will be there in St. Louis. This coincides with Arch Madness. So the big Missouri Valley Conference tournament happens during the exact same time, March 2nd through the 6th. So we're excited about it. I'll have a reception there. I'll also kick off with President Mahoney and with Matt, with our SIU Foundation folks, for our annual Day of Giving, which we're really excited about. So we'll have a chance to make a big splash there as well. So really excited about that. Next slide. Black History Month. A lot of events that are planned. I know last week we started this off with a hybrid celebration in our Guyon Auditorium with a lot of Zooms. On the left, you'll see our picture of Dr. Ezike the Illinois Department of Public Health was speaking to us virtually and did a fantastic job. We'll continue to celebrate a number of events throughout the week. The theme is Black Health and Wellness Strong. So we have a lot of different folks that will be here participating and making sure that they educate our campus on a number of things that we think are going to help with our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that we have going on. Next slide. Some of the branding and partnership pieces that you probably saw in the news media this last week related to our agreement with HBCU Stillman College. Stillman College is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, a great liberal arts HBCU there that really has some efforts in place to try and make sure that their students move on and get a legal education. So our partnership we signed, thanks to our Dean Davidson, did a great job in working and setting this up. To have more diversity in the legal profession. And so the students at Stillman College are going to have an opportunity to be a little more engaged with that pipeline that gets them from Tuscaloosa to Carbondale as it relates to our law school. So we're really excited about that. Our Saluki Step Ahead, as you probably remember, our agreements with several of the community colleges in the state, where students obviously take their first 2 years at the community college and their third and fourth year at a distance. For those that are place bound and unable to come to Carbondale, we're bringing pretty much SIUC to their doorstep. And so we've started signing lots of agreements. These are just a few agreements that we have here. We have many more to sign, and you'll hear about those as we continue on. Next slide. For research and innovation, we're always pleased with what's happening with faculty research here on campus, as well as our students. They continue to excel in research. Just to give you some quick high points here, a team from SIU Carbondale is among only 23 teams in the world to win the X Prize Carbon Removal Challenge, funded by Elon Musk and the Musk Foundation. So really excited about that. Only 8 institutions were involved in the United States. Graduate student winners, Tia Zimmerman and Jennifer Pierce. I want to congratulate them and our faculty sponsors, Scott Hamilton, Bream, and Ken Anderson. So they do a great job. I want to highlight Dr. Stephen Corral, the Gregory A. Lee Professor of Management. He has studied the Great Resignation. Many of you probably saw a lot of the information that's been talked about in that particular area. He has attracted attention from national news media outlets, and even as far as internationally, South Korea and France. And so really excited about the work that's happening there. Our doctoral student, Amina, see in the picture here, a student in environmental resources and policy, received 2 major awards for her work to examine the sustainability of aquifers. So again, one of our pillars being sustainability, we're trying to make sure we highlight and definitely give some credit to the work that's being done here. Next slide. Speaking of sustainability, very quickly, $2.3 million in grants. If you think about our Green Fund, which is very popular, it's created back in 2009. Over $2.3 million has been allocated for 225 sustainability projects. You wonder why one of our pillars is sustainability. This is a perfect example of why. So we're going to continue to move in that space. Final slide, that I think is our last one here. I want to highlight what I consider to be our future leaders. We want to make sure with SIUC Lee that we retain the talent that we have here and that we develop that talent to be the next. We have folks in this picture that want to be the next chancellor, the next vice chancellor, the next provost, the next dean. So all of these are employees that are here. Many of them have been here for a number of years, some just arrived, but they have big aspirations to move in their professional careers. And I meet with this group every month. It's like having a class with this group, and we have a lot of discussions about at 30,000 feet about the university and what it takes to move the university forward. And they are always offering me some great advice. And so we have their names and their departments that will make sure that you know who they are and the work that they're doing. But I'm very proud of this group. And that will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor Lane. Dean Cruz, will you present your report for the School of Medicine?
Yeah, thanks, Judge Gilbert. I was going to make a few comments about decision making during the COVID pandemic today, and I thank President Mahoney for the kind words that he said about me. But I'd like to give a snapshot of really what's going on in the system during COVID, and it's really quite a success story and involved lots of people. So throughout the pandemic, the SIU system, all the campuses needed to make decisions that properly balanced and the minimization of the transmission of the virus with actions that promote the usual activities of life that make us productive organizations. So as infections with Omicron decline rapidly, it's now time to update decision-making again. And I think most of you have heard that the state of Illinois has announced the lifting of the mask mandate for many indoor settings effective February 28th. We'll take that into consideration. But more important than that for our current decisions is this one. At this juncture, the key to return to usual activities of a productive society is a very high rate of vaccination, without a doubt. So right now, those who are unvaccinated are 20 times more likely to die of COVID-19 than those who received the initial series. 20 times, that's 1,900%. That's a lot. Those who are unvaccinated are 90 to 97 times more likely to die of COVID-19 than those who are boosted. So that's a good message that we've got to give. But across the SIU system, we'll use this information to update our policies as we continue to place that risk-benefit needle in the most appropriate place. So I've been fortunate to be involved with people who make these decisions for the various campuses of the SIU system. I meet with Chancellors Lane and Pembroke, President Mahoney, his leadership team every week on Wednesday afternoon. I meet with Chancellor Lane, his leadership teams frequently, met with Chancellor Pembroke in his town hall meetings and on his radio broadcasts. And I was fortunate to be a member of the IBHE committee that included the university presidents that developed the parameters for opening in the fall of 2020. So I've seen a lot of the decision-making that's gone on. And I just want to make this point. The decision-making by the SIU leaders has been exceptional. The consideration of the risk and benefit is always reasonable and appropriate. There's never any panic. There's always proper self-confidence and assurance in the face of a very demanding situation. And that risk-benefit needle has always been placed right where it should have been for the best outcomes. So President Mahoney's really carefully led these discussions, and he's made sure that there's a high degree of consistency across the system. And at the same time, he's made sure that the various campuses have enough autonomy to make the decisions they need for appropriate local outcomes. Chancellor Lane, Chancellor Pembroke assembled great teams that did great work. And I think that's what everybody needs to recognize. I saw these teams in actions frequently. Their teams provided superb insight, did excellent work on the ground. They collaborated with local organizations to make community-wide decisions go too. So the decisions were sound and the outcomes for the campuses were the best among all universities in Illinois. All Illinois universities, the best, and among the best in the nation. And I'll just say what Yogi Berra said, you can look it up. It's on the New York Times website right there. So the pandemic's not over, but hopefully better days are around the corner. It's my pleasure to continue working with these great teams. I'm honored to be a part of it. And Chancellor Pembroke, it's been a real honor to work with you. I'll miss you and wish you the best, Randy.
Okay. Thank you, Dean Cruz. Chancellor Pembroke, I want to echo President Mahoney's comments and thank you for your service as the SIUE Chancellor these last several years. And you may now proceed to provide your final report as Chancellor for the Edwardsville campus.
Well, thank you, Chair Gilbert. Let me just start by saying thank you again for the opportunity to serve in this position. I want to echo something that Jerry said and that President Mahoney said. We have had tremendous leadership, and I don't know how many times a week I would write Jerry and say, what's up with this and what do we need to do? And he would immediately respond. And so I think between President Mahoney and Jerry Cruz, We've had some excellent leadership as well as the campus individuals who have helped. We've done over 25,000 tests since we came back in early January. Our positivity has gone from 14 to less than 3%, about 2.5%. So great things happening there. And I just can't say thank you enough for all of the individuals who have helped. If we'll move ahead, please, Michael, if you can advance the slide. I'm going to talk about 5 themes today about things that are happening at SIUE: students, faculty and staff, academic programs, community, and finances. But I'll try to go quickly, and then I'll close with enrollment. So as you can see on this first slide, starting with students, the SIUE chapter of the College Diabetes Network was recently launched by SIUE School of Nursing students to focus on providing young adults with type 1 diabetes information on how to find resources and how to manage their diabetes in college and beyond. SIUE pharmacy student and U.S. Navy veteran Daniela Mazzaro assessed the needs of U.S. military veterans living in Illinois and the health services provided. Findings from her research will help policymakers better serve veterans in our region. Less than 1/2 of U.S. vets have VA health care. Next slide. Congratulations to School of Pharmacy student Justin Chow, who is a member of the winning team in a competition hosted by St. Louis University Gateway Geriatric Education Center. Justin's team had students from dentistry, speech pathology, and allied health fields. In November, they defeated the University of Minnesota team to win the competition. And as you heard from our athletic director earlier, the SIUE student athlete graduation success rate is 93%. This year, we were 14th of all Division I public institutions and number 2 in Illinois. And since 2014, SIUE's GSR has been in the top 35 of all Division I publics and number 1 or number 2 in Illinois every year. Next slide. In December, SIUE East St. Louis Charter High School students received gifts from the annual Angel Tree campaign, including leather jackets, snack boxes, and logo texting gloves. The latest issue of the SIUE student literary magazine called River Bluff Review was published in December, and it has been published online since 2020. The latest issue, appropriately, is on challenges presented by COVID. Also in December, the Always a Cougar graduation celebration occurred, featuring a toast to the fall class. The next section, section 2, focuses on faculty and staff highlights. Faculty from the Department of Criminal Justice Studies, including Dr. Trish Oberweis and Dr. Ekaterina Goroslavsky, addressed climate survey by collecting data to make the campus a safer place and create interventions to improve campus safety. Department of English Language and Literature professor, Dr. Howard Ramsey, as you heard in the introduction earlier, was named Distinguished Research Professor based on his innovative scholarship and the teaching that you heard about, particularly relating to African American literature. He has authored 2 books, 25 scholarly articles, and hosted 2 summer institutes on Frederick Douglass. The Department of Pharmacy Practice, Dr. Jennifer Roselli, Clinical Associate Professor, was sworn in as the 144th President of the Illinois Pharmacists Association. And her colleague, Dr. Miranda Wilhelm, was sworn in for her 3rd term as Vice President. One of my favorite people, moving on, Ruth Slonzinska, artist in residence at SIUE from 1964 to 1987, recorded My Life in Music to be released on March 18th, 2022. It contains historic images of the pianist's childhood and early adult career taken from Lovejoy Library's special collection. And by the way, as inspiration, last Sunday, she performed a recital of Mozart, Beethoven, Prokofiev, and Rachmaninoff to celebrate her 97th birthday. She is the last living individual to have studied with Rachmaninoff. The third area of today's presentation is about academic programming. The Department of Allied Health has developed 2 post-baccalaureate certificates focused on public health, specifically in the areas of infectious diseases and global health. Congratulations to Weibo Sheen and to Nicole Klein. I know trustees will be pleased to know that the School of Dental Medicine has entered an alliance with MedPrep, which allows students to be directly admitted to the School of Dental Medicine. In the Department of Teaching and Learning, a new accelerated online master's in curriculum instruction has been developed, led by Dr. Suzanne James, and allows students with undergraduate degrees outside education to earn a master's and gain teaching certification. Also, Black Gentlemen Entering Manhood, or GEMS for short, is a mentoring program for Black male students at the SIUE East St. Louis Charter High School. The program holds weekly enrichment programming on attitudinal development and career readiness. Thanks to Dr. Gina Jeffries and her staff for developing this innovative approach. The fourth category I want to mention has to do with community. I mentioned Dr. Trish Oberweis earlier. You may have heard about her work with the Illinois State Police to offer service learning opportunities. This collaboration is open to SIUE students to organize and update cold case files. They hope to share the model with other police districts and universities, and we hope to have students present to the trustees in the future on breaking cases. Thank you to our School of Nursing Preceptor Excellence Award winners, Tammy Vandermolen, Felicia Ernst, Andrea Cutler, and Ashish John. They are serving as both educators and mentors for our psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner students. Southern Illinois Builders Association CEO Donna Richter was honored with the Distinguished Service Award at our Fall 21 commencement ceremonies. The St. Louis Business Journal recognized her as the most influential businesswoman of the year recently. The fifth category, research grants and finances. We are pleased to announce research grants for graduate students. The Graduate School announced Fall 2021 awards valued at up to $500 each for 30 students from areas such as sports psychology, civil engineering, art and design, and computer science. As an example, sports psychology has graduate students who are working with athletes locally and around the world to support their mental and emotional needs. The Office of Research and Projects has received 34 new awards totaling approximately $5.8 million since I last spoke to you. Dr. Dennis Morse, Professor, Department of Criminal Justice Studies, and law enforcement partners, including St. Louis Metro Police, East St. Louis Police, and the Alton Police, were awarded 2 multi-year grants of $750,000 to study body-worn camera technology in hopes of reducing gun violence. Also, IEPA has renewed a $1 million plus interagency agreement with the ERTC and Matthew Moss to ensure the quality of drinking water in Illinois. Giovanna May, Program Director in the School of Business, received $270,000 to connect small business community to small Illinois business traditionally in underserved communities. And Aaron Vigno-Dimick in the University Museum received over $150,000 to support collections from South and Central America, Eurasia, Africa, and Oceania. Dr. Natasha Flowers, Assistant Dean, School of Education, Health, and Human Behavior, received $603,000 for the Illinois Tutoring Project, which you heard about earlier from Garish. University Advancement has received fiscal 22 contributions of over $3.6 million, including a Department of Construction endowed professorship. A $500,000 gift from CCAP will fund School of Engineering's first endowed professorship and support research projects, travel, and the ability to hire student workers. I also wanted to congratulate athletics on their fundraising efforts for a wrestling room expansion project, which increased space by 40%, the first significant update since the 1990s. I hope you will visit that. Let me close with 4 quick remarks about enrollment. All good news. This spring, we have the largest number of new students for any spring semester in almost 20 years. The number of new international students has taken us to an all-time high of 684 international students. As Austin was mentioning, retention is important. Our first semester to second semester retention has gone up to 88% for our fall 21 students. And we saw increases in retention across all groups, 9% increase for Hispanic students, 6% increase for Black students. And I also wanted to say that our graduate enrollment is up, led by the Graduate School of Engineering. I'll close with an invitation, and that is this Saturday at 2:30. I hope you'll come see us for our alumni reception against Tennessee Tech. Starts at 2:30. It's in the instructional gym in the BC. Women begin at 1 and men at 3:30. So we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Chancellor Pembroke, and we wish you well in your retirement. At regular board meetings, 30 minutes will be reserved to receive comments or questions from members of the public and employees of the university. Speakers' comments or questions should not exceed 5 minutes. Persons wishing to speak shall contact the executive secretary for the board. The executive secretary of the board shall maintain a roster of those seeking to speak and shall call the speakers in order. Madam Secretary, do we have any speakers today?
No, we do not.
No speakers. Okay, we will then move to the omnibus motion. Our next item is the call for the omnibus motion. The trustees have had approximately 10 days to study the items on the agenda. A certain number of items are routine and self-explanatory. So as to serve time, we act upon them in one motion and one vote. Madam Secretary, please read the items suggested for the omnibus motion.
For the omnibus, item H, which would start with changes in faculty administrative payroll through item Q. And then we would take items F and G separately.
Okay, is there any discussion on board agenda items H through Q? Is there a motion to approve these items for the omnibus motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
And moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick,
Yes.
Walters.
Waters, Maddie?
She has dropped off.
Oh, she dropped off.
Okay.
All right, I declare the motion to approve items H through Q as passed. Board item F, report of purchase orders and contracts for October, November, December 2021 SIUC. Do I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
There a second? I'll second it. Now going to ask for a roll call item for a roll call for vote on item F.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick.
I recuse.
Okay, I declare the motion is passed. Board item G, report of purchase orders and contracts for October, November, and December of 2021 SIU Edwardsville. Do I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
So second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're now going to ask for a roll call vote on item G.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick.
Yes.
I declare the motion is passed. This concludes the business of the Board of Trustees today. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the board is planned to be held April 28th, 2022 at Illinois University in Carbondale. I am hoping that it will be in person then. Hopefully this is the last Zoom board meeting we will have to conduct. A news conference will be held immediately at the conclusion of this meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Whittington, please call the roll.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is carried. I want to again thank everybody for their participation today and look forward, hopefully in April, to seeing everybody in person. And this meeting is now adjourned.